Let me hear you sing. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better.
Viva sparkling flavored water. Water but better.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Thank you for joining me live right here on IBN and on See Results, of course, on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Nyla, and I'll be taking you through the next 50 minutes. And later on, I'll also be dealing with ELA. So for now on, we're just going to jump right into some creative writing. So far in creative writing, we have done the topic of sentences where we explained several types of sentences. I'm not going to go through those again. We did those twice already. So if you missed that lesson, please go back to our See Results page on Facebook, and there you will have the option to view that session once more. So today we are going to, and then last day we did paragraph writing where we analyzed the paragraph. So we looked at the topic sentence, your supporting details, and your concluding sentence. And we also, on Edmodo, we put up a quiz where students was allowed to write their own paragraph, so listing their topic sentence, supporting details, and concluding sentence. So later on, next week early, we will be showing a few of those pieces for those of you who did that very well, okay? But so far, contributions have been great and really good effort so far, so please continue doing so. What we are going to do today, however, we are going to continue with sentence types. So it's different from the 4 types of sentences that we did earlier on. So we had the declarative sentence, you had your command, your question, your exclamatory sentence. That is not what we are going to be doing. So you're always hearing your teachers talking about, sentences need to be either simple, compound, or complex. So this is what we are going to be talking about today and explaining to you the difference or differences between these 3 types of sentences or 3 different structures. They are really different because of their structure. So we're going to start with a simple sentence. But before I go into what is a simple sentence, I want you to know, or viewers actually, I want you to know, Get your mind ready. Get your mind ready to think, have out your paper, your pen, start jotting down ideas. So creative writing, as you know, consists of 20 marks or 40%, right? So you need to be very wary of all little details because you want to make sure you maximize on each mark. We also already went through the rubric for narrative and report style writing. As we draw closer and moving into narrative and report style writing, we are going to go through that rubric once more. But we are not doing that today. Let's look at our simple sentence. How many of you at home already know what is a simple sentence? I am sure a lot of you do. However, sometimes we tend to forget how to create a simple sentence. So, in your writing, your sentences need to be of a variety. So you need to have your simple, complex, or compound sentences. So this is why it is important that we review these types of sentences and understand clearly the differences between each of them and how we can even build upon a simple sentence into a compound or a complex sentence, right? This is important information here. So we're looking at a simple sentence, and for our first point there, we can see that a simple sentence contains a subject and a predicate. First of all, I'm going to ask, do you know what is the subject of your sentence and what is the predicate of your sentence? Those little bits of information, very important. I hope that you already know what is your subject and what is your predicate. For those of you who do not know, A little reminder, your subject is a who or what of your sentence. Your predicate is everything after your subject. And a little later, I'm just going to demonstrate to you in our examples how you can find your subject and your predicate. Also, in a simple sentence, you should express a complete thought. Of course, and that is what a sentence is, a group of words that make complete sense or it gives you a complete idea. So, as in the case, the boys went to the park. This here, a very simple sentence. The boys here is our subject. This is our who. And the rest of the sentence, went to the park, is our predicate. So your predicate is everything besides your subject. So it's important that you can identify your subject and your predicate. Look at sentence number 2, or example number 2. We like pizza. What is our subject here? We have subject pronoun. We have we. So we have our subject here. And again, like pizza, although the sentence is very short, as like I said, it's a simple sentence, we already know this is our predicate. So think about a sentence and identify in your mind the subject and the predicate of that sentence. If I say, the girls love to play on the beach, what is your subject there and what is your predicate? You should know the girls there is your subject, it's your who, and love to play on the beach is your predicate. That's the rest of the sentence. You should know also a very simple tip, just a reminder, a simple sentence is also called an independent clause. Now this word independent clause or phrase independent clause here, you might get a little confused, you're not sure what the word independent means. It says when your mommy or daddy is telling you, be independent, be responsible, those things. It can stand on its own. So independent means that they can go on its own or you can do things on your own. Independent clause here suggests that the sentence can stand on its own. So if we're looking at the sentence, the boys went to the park, that there is an independent clause. It can stand on its own. We don't need any additional information there. And it expresses a complete thought as well. So I want you to write a couple sentences in your spare time, identify the subject, identify the predicate, and you will know you are correct if you have demonstrated, expressed a complete thought. And you must include your subject and predicate as mentioned. Okay? So that was quite simple to remember, not much information when we're talking about simple sentences. We have been writing simple sentences since probably infants, right? We always start with simple sentences and we build on that. So talking about building on that, we are going to move on to compound sentences. So what is a compound sentence? So a compound sentence contains two or more independent clauses. Here we have these words again, independent clauses. It must contain two or more independent clauses. And remember we said that an independent clause is one that can stand on its own. Clauses are joined by a coordinating conjunction. Here, it's getting a little more tricky. You need to know now that a compound sentence is joined by a coordinating conjunction. And you're asking yourself, what is a coordinating conjunction? Can I remember what is a coordinating conjunction? Some of you are already looking at the examples here, and that's great, right? So, and from this, you can probably be able to identify your coordinating conjunction at once. And just a little reminder, conjunction is a joining word. We can use conjunctions to join sentences, right? So, let's see. The girls went to the beach, but they did not go to the zoo. But just remember that in a compound sentence, one such as number 1 here, they contain two or more independent clauses. Let us look at the sentence carefully and let us identify the two independent clauses. So far we have the girls went to the beach. Can that clause there stand on its own? If you said yes, you are quite correct. that sentence or that clause, well, it's not a sentence, it's a clause in this case, can stand on its own or act as a sentence. Your coordinating conjunction is but. But there is your coordinating conjunction. And then you have the remaining of the sentence. They did not go to the zoo. So let's just forget about this but for now. If I didn't have that but there, could they did not go to the zoo stand on its own? Yes, it can. But in this sentence, these two ideas is joined, or these two clauses rather, is joined by a coordinating conjunction. And that is exactly what a compound sentence does. It joins two independent clauses using a coordinating conjunction. And I hope you can see clearly how this sentence is joined by using that coordinating conjunction. Let's look at example number 2. We like chocolate and we like ice cream. First independent clause there. We like chocolate, don't we? And we like ice cream. In both cases, they are both independent clauses. They can both stand on its own. But a compound sentence is one that is joined by a coordinating conjunction. So here we have we like chocolate and we like ice cream, joined by a coordinating conjunction. Now I wonder how many of you at home or on Facebook or wherever you are looking at us from can tell me some or give me some more coordinating conjunctions. How do you remember what are the coordinating conjunctions? Because there's actually quite a few, right? Now, I'm sure a lot of you would have seen this or learned this at school actually, right? So these are your coordinating conjunctions here. An easy way to remember that, you can just remember the acronym fanboys. Now, what does fanboys stand for? What does fanboys have to do with coordinating conjunctions, you're asking yourself? Look at it closely. F for for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. So you are seeing here, fanboys is actually an acronym for your coordinating conjunctions. And once you remember that acronym fanboys, you will always remember your coordinating conjunctions. Sometimes I'm writing and I need to remember what are my coordinating conjunctions, and I cannot remember them at the top of my head, but I do remember fanboys. And once I remember fanboys, I can easily put each letter from that acronym or associate each letter from that acronym with my conjunctions, and it becomes really easy for me. And I hope that was also helpful to you, and that will help you in your writing and identifying your coordinating conjunctions. This is actually one of the older tricks in the book, but still it's new for a lot of you, and nothing is wrong with that. We're still learning, and I know a lot of the older teachers, like my teachers, this is what they taught me, and I am happy to pass on this little tip to some of you, okay? Some parents who might remember that as well. Good. Our third type of sentence structure. So we're looking at complex sentences. Now, what is a complex sentence? Let's see. Contains an independent clause and a dependent clause. Notice the difference here between a compound sentence and a complex sentence. In your compound sentence, they were joined by two or more independent clauses. Both of them had to be independent. However, in your complex sentences, you would notice that there is an independent clause and a dependent clause. Independent and dependent. So now we already know what is an independent clause. Now what do you think is a dependent clause? So it's like the word says, dependent. It is depending on something else for that clause to continue. So it's just the opposite there, right? Dependent clauses begin with a subordinating conjunction. Now, it's a lot to remember. So compound had coordinating conjunctions. Now, complex sentences have subordinating conjunctions. So you need to know the difference between your coordinating and subordinating. So that's a point to note. That's something for you to write. So I hope you are writing that so far. Let's look at the examples provided here and see if we can identify our subordinating conjunction in our complex sentence. So let's see. Whenever Sebastian was away, I rode his bicycle. What do you think there is your subordinating conjunction? So if you, in your mind, you had whenever, you are correct. And I'm going to show you how. So we had whenever Sebastian was away. Is that your dependent or independent clause? What do you think? So if you had dependent clause, you are correct. The reason being, whenever Sebastian was away, can that stand on its own? Does it need anything else to continue that sentence? And in fact, it does. So let's continue that sentence. I rode his bicycle. So this here, this clause, whenever Sebastian was away, is depending on your next clause there. And in number 2, we are using the same subordinating conjunction, but now we are going to look and see how it is used within the sentence. I rode Sebastian's bicycle whenever he was away. So your first clause, I rode Sebastian's bicycle. So from I to bicycle, can that clause stand on its own? It certainly can. But whenever, so your sentence is continuing here now using your subordinating conjunction, whenever he was away. That is your dependent clause. So you need to know the difference between independent, dependent, your subordinating, and your coordinating conjunction. So that's a little bit much to remember there, but take your time, get your notes, right? Use your notes, reflect on your notes, and even use your notes when you are studying to help you as a guide. Now, if you are not sure what are some other subordinating conjunctions, I have provided here for you a handy list that we always use in our writing, but we may not have had the knowledge or know that these are actually called subordinating conjunctions. And here are some. We have after, although, because, since, when, that, which, who. We have lots more, but these are just some that are quite common, right? And of course there are many more. So do a little research. I'm sure in your textbooks in at school you came across a very long list, because there's actually a very long list. So memorize some, okay? Just learn a few so you can use them in your writing. Create variety. That's the whole idea. Good. So now that we have that covered, we had these 3 different sentence structures. We had simple, we had compound, and we had complex. We know the difference between all of those, and I hope you remember some of them, right? Because we're going to use them a little later on and see how we can create sentences using those structures. What we really want to do today is talk about extending the sentence. So sometimes you're writing and you get stuck. You don't know how to move on with the sentence. You know something is missing. You know you want to add on some information, some details, but you don't know what to put. So here's how we're going to help you. We're going to show you how we're going to take a simple sentence and create it into a compound or a complex sentence. And ideally, that is what you need to do. We cannot write an entire narrative piece and only have simple sentences. The reader is going to get bored. You are going to get bored. Your essay is going to be quite short, okay? It's not going to have enough information or details as well. So pay attention, listen closely, and look at what we are going to show you here. So sentences can be made more interesting by including adjectives and adverbs. So there should be and adverbs here. So we are going to talk about making sentences more interesting. And one way to do that is by adding adjectives and adverbs. But first of all, you need to know your adjectives and you need to know your adverbs, right? And if you don't, here's an opportunity for you to learn it now. Conjunctions, continue with what a sentence needs. Conjunctions can also be used to lengthen the sentence by adding clauses. So as we saw before with our compound and complex sentence, we saw how we can use independent or dependent clauses to lengthen that sentence by, of course, using your coordinating or subordinating conjunction to join that sentence. And you have to actually consider asking the following questions. Now, when I'm saying consider asking the following questions, I'm saying that because the 5 W's and H you are seeing there is how, or the little strategy we are going to show you how we're going to use those to help you lengthen your sentences, right? So you must be familiar with your 5 W's and your H as well. And if you didn't know, 5 W's and H actually stands for who, what, when, where, why, and your H there, how, right? Very common. This is what your reader is always looking for. It is assessed in the rubric. They are looking for the 5 W's and your H. Of course, there are also your question words. We learned that when we were learning about question words as well. Great. A little reminder here now. We're going to talk about adjectives a little bit. Now, what is an adjective? Do you know? Do your friends know? Parents, do you know what is an adjective? So we need to know that an adjective is a word that describes a noun or pronoun. So we know it as a describing word. So we must remember when we are using adjectives, we can use our 5 senses to help us remember that. So we know we can say sight, must describe sight, what we see, describe your taste, how something tastes, odor, how something smells, touch, how something feels, and sound, how something sounds. So you can describe sounds. And of course, there are words associated with each type or each sense there that we always use in our writing and that we encourage you to use in your writing to make your writing more descriptive or even more interesting. So we have here color. So I'm just going to give you a few examples of words we can use to describe things, or nouns or a pronoun, right? We have color, you know, lots of colors. And in modern times, we have colors like aquamarine and teal and so on. We have so many different colors now, great variety, okay? I am sure a lot of you know a lot more different colors than I maybe do, right? So use them. Don't only use blue, black, orange. You know a variety, use it. Use your knowledge, apply it. Size, you're talking about a house. Describe the house, okay? So not only physically, but describe the size. Use words that pertain to size, so big, small, etc. But try not to limit it to those little words like big and small, what we always use, okay? So we're talking about creating new vocabulary, using new vocabulary in your writing. Shape, something may be boxy, oval, round, square, triangular, circular. Okay, so you need to know how to use those words. Taste, if something tastes bitter, if it's sour, if it's sweet, if it's semi-sweet. Okay, odor, how something smells. So you might want to say something smells flowery or fresh or minty, musty, salty. All those are words you can describe, use to describe odor. A little later on, not today, but I will provide you with a very nice, colorful adjective list and a few sentences that you can use in your narrative style writing. When we're doing narrative style writing, I'm going to provide for you lots of sentences that you can use to describe setting and physical attributes of a person. It's going to be really interesting, I promise you that. So look out for that. You don't want to miss that document, okay? Texture, how something feels, of course. Bumpy, smooth, does it feel squishy, slimy, furry? Sound, you're at home alone, you hear a sound, you have to write a story based on that sound you heard in the basement. Use words that is really going to appeal to the reader, okay? Make them really want to concentrate. They don't want to miss a line. They want to keep reading. So you hear singing in the basement. You can probably say you heard harmonious singing. You heard a faint sound, pleasant, quiet. All of these things are words, or all of these are adjectives we can use to describe sound. And of course, there are lots more. Number, talking about a crowd. How did the crowd look? Sparse. Sparse is a word. If you don't know the meaning of that word, that's your assignment there. Go and look for that meaning. That's a new word you can add to your vocabulary. many, or you could give us numbers, 50, 100, whatever it is. Weather, looking at the weather outside. You want to say something about it? Please don't use the word the sky is black. Right? So you can say foggy, all of these things, right? Try to create new vocabulary. Good. So two things we said we can use to spice up our writing. So like adding seasoning to our writing, right? So we're using adjectives and we're using adverbs today. So what is an adverb? An adverb describes a verb, an adjective, or even another adverb, right? It tells how, where, when, how much, and with what frequency. All of these are different types of adverbs that we have. There are many, many types of adverbs, and the list is quite long. Familiarize yourself with that list. Many adverbs are formed by adding ly. So, which is quite true. So sometimes it's easy for us to identify an adverb because it ends with ly. But just know that there are many other adverbs that do not end with ly, and you also need to know what are those adverbs. You can be tested on that. So you need to know which word is an adverb and which is not. Like I said here, some adverbs do not take the ly ending. They have the same form as adjectives. Let's see what we mean by that. Here's an example of a very lengthy list. You can see we have how, where, when, how much, and how often. Here are different types of adverbs that you can use in your writing to describe those headings. So if you want to say how, you can say quietly, peacefully, carefully. All of these are your ly words which you are already accustomed to. Okay, and then you have some like well, fast, painfully, secretly. All of these. Where? I want to talk about where something is. Above, abroad, far, away, back here, outside, below. If you want to use below in a sentence, how can you use that word below? Right? When? You want to talk about when something happened. Which adverb are you going to use? There are many choices for you to choose from. Now, yesterday, soon, tonight, last month, last year. All of those are adverbs that tells us when something happens. What about how much? So we have quite, fairly, enormously, entirely, extremely, absolutely. How would you use the adverb absolutely in a sentence? Can you think of a sentence with absolutely, or even completely, or enough, or I have had enough? It tells us how much, to what extent you are feeling a certain way. Oh, I am extremely tired. How tired are you? Extremely, right? You have had a long day at school, so you're extremely tired. When you're talking about how often, these are some adverbs you can use when you're talking about how often something happens. Always, sometimes, often, normally, generally, seldom. Very quite, a very long list here. Tell me, how will you use the word seldom in your writing? Do you know the meaning of the word seldom? So if you don't, that's another word there for you to add to your vocabulary list. So you can say, I seldom go to the market, or I hardly ever see my Aunt May, or I frequently go to the washroom. All of those tells you how often something is happening. And you just need to be mindful in whatever context you're writing your sentence. However your sentence is flowing, they should actually be either simple, compound, or complex. And include in your sentences adjectives and adverbs. Try to make your sentences very interesting, because those sentences, like we did last week, build into paragraphs. So we haven't actually done the entire paragraph and how to make that paragraph interesting. But here is the very basics of that, where you actually have to know how to write types of sentences and how to give us a variety and how to use those sentences to build on a paragraph, and then paragraphs, and then for your entire 5 paragraphs for your narrative writing piece. Great. So we're just going to take a short break. When we come back, Sir Ijaz is going to be joining me, or taking over rather. He's going to talk a little bit about extending the sentence. So all the knowledge that you just gained, so when we talked about sentence structure, adverbs and adjectives. Now we're going to actually implement that knowledge into writing or extending the sentences. So we're just going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Let me hear you sing. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better.
Viva sparkling flavored water. Water but better.
Good evening, assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to See Results on IBN TV. And here we're dealing with our creative writing today. We're trying to make you or to assist you to become a better writer, and we're focusing right now on the narrative type of writing or the narrative style of writing. Some might find this to actually be the more fun type of writing because there's a lot more flexibility in terms of the language that you can use. And Ms. Nyla just walked you through some of the strategies you can use to make your sentences more fun, more engaging, and have the reader engaged and hooked in your story. Okay, so I just want to say that on our Edmodo page so far, we've been receiving a lot of entries into our math and our ELA quizzes and assignments. However, some of you seem to be a bit shy about the paragraph writing. Don't be alarmed, don't be scared. Do the paragraph that was assigned last week. The cutoff date for completing that is on Thursday at 4:59 p.m. We will make the feedback private within the Edmodo group, and feel free to express yourself because this is something quite important. All right, you want to have a strong narrative piece if that's what you indeed have to do for SEA in April next year. So we want to see how it is you're taking in the information that we're giving to you. So do submit it. We'll keep the feedback private, and if you are quite happy with it and you would like us or you would allow us to use one of your paragraphs on the program, we will ask you first. So don't be shy, don't be bashful. We are here to help, and we want to make sure that everybody improves. So Ms. Nyla was talking about the simple sentences, the compound and the complex sentences. Now, point of note, we are teaching you today how to extend a sentence using these tools. Okay, but that doesn't mean that every sentence within your writing has to be extended. There are places and times where it would be more appropriate to use the simple sentence structure, use the complex, and to use the compound. All right, but we need to have a working knowledge of how to do all. All right, so there are some important questions that you might want to ask yourself about a particular sentence. Is it a sentence that you're going to use to really draw the attention of the reader in? Do you want to, create exciting imagery to tell something in a very powerful and a very profound way? And yes, I'm using all of these words because I want you to become familiar with different vocabulary. As Ms. Nyla said, you have the dictionary at home. You might have your dictionary on a laptop or on a phone, on your tablet. There are so many great tools available right now all over the web, and with your parents' supervision, you can benefit from all of these. And one of the main ways, I would say, to make your writing better for adults, for kids, for anybody, is to read. Okay? If you don't read, your writing is likely going to stagnate. It's going to remain at one level, but you want that to improve. Okay, so read as much books as you can. Read a variety of things that you're interested in. Read the newspaper. Read everything that you can find your hands on. Parents, I encourage you to build a little library at home. Whatever books you may already have, whatever books that you think your child would benefit from reading, have them there and mandate some reading time at home, okay? Instead of them always being on their PS4, their tablet playing games, have them read a little bit. They won't die, and with time, they are going to appreciate the reading, and later on in life, or even next April when they are writing their essay exam, they will be quite grateful that they had read all these books where they can draw inspiration from in their writing. So kids, remember to read. It's very important, okay? So in extending our sentences, we can ask ourselves a couple questions. Ms. Nyla alluded to it before. We call them the 5 W's and the H, all right? We have who, what, where, when, why, and how, okay? So we have an example here right now. The boy ran. Simple sentence. The boy ran. The subject is the boy. The predicate is ran, right? The boy ran. It expresses a complete idea, but it's very bland, okay? How do we make this sentence into something more interesting? We can ask, what kind, or what was the state of the boy while he was running? The frightened boy ran, okay? And this paints a picture about the emotion of the character that you're describing. He is currently frightened, okay? The boy could also run excitedly, or he could run excitedly, an adverb which would describe the verb run, okay? But in this case, he's frightened. So those, just by changing the words, okay, in this case it's an adjective, the frightened boy, or you can use an adverb to describe the word ran or run, and you would make sure that your tenses agree and so on, right? So the boy is frightened in this case. So how did he run? We know that the boy is frightened. How was he running? The frightened boy ran hysterically, okay? He ran hysterically. So that paints an image in your mind. Great. Where? And where to? Yet another of our W's. The frightened boy ran hysterically down the road. Okay? So we've moved on now from just the boy ran. We have the frightened boy ran hysterically down the road. We can add a when. On Saturday morning, the frightened boy ran hysterically down the road. Now, you might be asking, well, why would I want to make it so complex? Again, it depends on the situation. It depends on where in your essay you're going to place the sentence, what it is you are trying to achieve. And as we build and we move on from just writing sentences and paragraphs, and we start to structure some actual stories with introduction and body and conclusion and so on, we will show you how to integrate all of these things, all right? So it was a Saturday morning, right? It's the when. On Saturday morning, the frightened boy ran hysterically down the road. And why? Why was he running? Okay? On Saturday morning, the frightened boy ran hysterically down the road because a ferocious pit bull was chasing him. All right. Now listen to this, guys. The boy ran. Is it a complete sentence? Yes, it is. It tells us that a boy is running. Do we know why he's running? Do we know how he's running? Do we know from what he's running? No, we don't know any of these things. And if you would like to convey that, you might want to consider asking yourself these questions once you have your idea in your mind about the picture that you want to paint, the story that you want to tell. You're going to use these words, you're going to use these tools, these questions that you're asking yourself to make your sentences more interesting, to give them complexity, to make them compound, to add flair to your writing. You're going to use adjectives, you're going to use adverbs, you're going to use different clauses, the dependents and the independents, and the different conjunctions that make them work together. All right, this is what's going to set you apart as a brilliant writer and as someone that the examiner is going to be very pleased with when they read your writing, okay? So it's important. So the boy ran is one such sentence that we can extend, all right? The farmer waited on the rain. The farmer waited on the rain. So who is waiting? The farmer is waiting, right? What kind, or what was the state of the farmer? What can we say something more about the farmer? This farmer that's waiting in the rain, or on the rain, sorry. We're going to add some more detail to the sentence. The impatient farmer waited on the rain. So this tells you something now. The farmer is impatient. That immediately gives you a clue about what type of scenario we're dealing with here. As we add more detail, it will become clearer to the reader, less ambiguous. But impatience implies that he is really wanting this rain to come. Okay? The impatient farmer waited anxiously on the rain. All right? So what do we have here, guys? We have impatient, which is an adjective. It describes the noun farmer, right? The farmer. It tells us the state of the farmer, so therefore it's an adjective. And he's waiting. To wait is a verb, all right? To wait is to be in a state of expectation for something to take place, okay? And he's waiting how? He's waiting anxiously. So he's impatient, he's anxiously, and as these words jump out of the paper and into the mind of the reader, it immediately puts the reader in the state of mind of the farmer. And this is what a clever writer does. A clever writer wants the reader to be drawn in, to feel the emotions of the story, to feel the emotions of the character, to relate to them. And this is what makes writing beautiful, okay? So don't be afraid of it. Tackle it, try it. Experiment, send us your paragraphs. Even if you just want to message us a paragraph, say, look, I have an assignment, or Miss Nyla in this case, but I will help, of course. I have this essay due next week, and I wrote this essay. What do you think? Am I using the proper types of sentences? Are my adjectives good? Are my adverbs good? Are they correct in this context? You know, we are here to provide help for you as a student out there. Okay, parents? So please encourage your students to do the creative writing work. I believe on this Friday we're going to give another creative writing experiment where I'm going to do this very thing. We're going to put some simple sentences, and you as a student will have an opportunity to take it anywhere that you want to take it. For example, the first example of the boy ran, right? The boy doesn't have to be frightened. The boy could be excited. The boy could be happy, you know, and he could be running onto a pass from a friend in a game of football. He could be running towards a friend or a relative who he hasn't seen in a long time. But the boy ran has so many possibilities. The possibilities are practically limitless, right? It's all about your imagination. Have an idea and build around your idea, okay? So the farmer waited on the rain, right? He's impatient. He's an impatient farmer. He's waiting on the rain. He's waiting very anxiously on the rain. So I, as a reader now, I'm getting nervous too, right? What's up? Where is he? The impatient farmer sat at home anxiously awaiting the rain. So he's at home now. So immediately you start picturing a ranch. You start picturing a garden. And this farmer, he's there. You know, you might even visualize. You might even see, without even the writer doing so as yet, an image of a farmer, what you perceive a farmer to be, sitting there at his home, what you imagine to be the home of a farmer, in an anxious state, right? He is impatient and he's waiting the rain. Right, when was this taking place? Okay, it happened on Monday afternoon. Now again, you don't always have to use all the 5 W's and the H, but we are just showing you how that we can expand or extend these sentences to make your writing more interesting, okay? On Monday afternoon, the impatient farmer sat at home anxiously awaiting the rain. And we want to know why now. Why was he awaiting this rain? So on Monday afternoon, the impatient farmer sat at home anxiously awaiting the rain, as it did not fall in 10 days. So now we have a very crystallized, clear perception of why this farmer was sitting at home, all anxious, all impatient, awaiting this rain, okay? And you might be able to imply certain things from this sentence that the writer may or may not clarify as it goes on, or you as the writer may or may not clarify. You might want to leave some things open-ended to create an air of mystery, okay? So guys, just try to put yourself in the shoes of a real author, right? You want to get somebody to read your work and to be very interested in it, to believe what it is you're saying on the page, or even if it's fantasy, to suspend your disbelief and put yourself in the shoes of maybe an alien. Maybe it's an alien waiting impatiently on a spaceship to come for him, okay? But you have to know how to use these 5 W's and these H, and this H, sorry, to create interesting writing, all right? Do we have another example here? Yes. So what if we were to give you one of the W's and not just a readily made simple sentence, and you have to wrap your mind around this one a little bit, think about it, try to come up with a sentence. right? Again, it's creative writing, so I want you writing. So just for this segment, we will probably limit the calls, except when it's really going to be more beneficial. I want you to write. I know you all could talk because you all have been calling, you all have been very brave, and we love that. Some of you all are very eloquent, very articulate on the phone, and that should translate into good writing, okay? So where? Into the river. Something is happening by a river, okay? What can we do with this sentence? Right? I can come up with a sentence that's quite simple. The fisherman cast his net into the river. The fisherman cast his net into the river, right? That's a fairly simple sentence. But what can we do to make this sentence a bit more interesting using our W's and our H's? Now, as an exercise, you can write down this into the river. Use the who, the what, the how, the where, the when. Great. We have how repeated there mistakenly. This should really have been why. This should really have been why. So we do apologize. Right? We use the 5 W's and the H. Great. And come up with a sentence. For me, I will share with you mine. Okay? Feel free to message it now on the Edmodo app or after you finish watching the show. Great. The fisherman cast his net into the river. I can expand upon that. I can say, at sundown, the tired fisherman cast his net powerfully into the river. How is that for a sentence compared to the fisherman cast his net into the river? At sundown, you're imagining a sunset. The tired fisherman cast his net. How did he cast it? Powerfully. You're imagining a strong fisherman now into the river. Okay? We are using the who is the fisherman. He's tired. That's a what. Where is he? He's doing this. He's casting this net into the river. When? At sundown. And how did he cast it? Powerfully. So we are using, and in this case we didn't use a why. Okay, but it might be implied again as you read. I might understand from this that the fisherman is trying to catch fish. Sometimes what is implied might not always be what you perceive, but that's a skill that you have to develop as a writer, to lead the reader in a certain direction and to leave some mystery where that might be beneficial to your writing. Talking about sundown, the time is now for the Maghrib Adhan. We're going to leave you for the Maghrib Adhan, and we'll be back afterwards and wrap up our creative writing session before you are rejoined by Miss Nyla for the English Language Arts. I've been your creative writing teacher for the day, or for part of the day. Join us soon. Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to our creative writing segment of C Results on IBN TV and on the C Results Facebook page. We're dealing with extending sentences. We're discussing today the different types of sentences, the simple, compound, and complex, how we can use adverbs and adjectives, and how we can ask ourselves some simple questions to make a simple sentence into something much more, okay? And those are our 5 W's and our H, okay? We have the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and we also have the H, which is how, okay? You may not always want to use all of them for every sentence. You may not want to always have compound and complex sentences within every sentence of your paragraph. Of course, that's going to be too wordy, all right? But it's important to have a variety of sentences, and the different types of sentences will suit your objective, all right? So as we progress in this program, as we get you to write, parents encourage them to do the creative writing exercise. They've done a lot of the maths. A lot of them have done the creative writing. We have 3 assignments up. That's due on Thursday at 4:59 p.m. Please get them to those who haven't done the maths and the English language arts, get them to do it. And those who have already done those, please encourage them to write our paragraph, which was based on the lesson from last week that Ms. Nyla gave, okay? So here we have, again, what kind, okay? Hot and smoking, which can be adjectives, all right? And we want to create a sentence with this. Before, I was giving you some simple sentences, and we used the 5 W's and the H to make them extended. Now I'm just throwing in some different W's without necessarily a simple sentence, and I want you, I would very much like for you to think of sentences at home right now. Say them, read them out to your parents, right? Pitch them to your siblings, anybody that's with you, and we're going to give you an assignment that deals with this to do over the weekend. It will be posted on Friday evening, God willing, and it will be due on Thursday next, so you have a lot of time to complete it. All right? So a fairly simple sentence that I had created from this is that the scent of fried bake filled the air, right? The scent of fried bake fill the air. What do you think I'm going to do with that hot and smoking now? That is going to describe my fried bake, right? The scent of hot and smoking fried bake filled the air at Maracas Bay, causing all to crave its delicious taste. Wow, what a sentence, right? That might put some of you in the mood to jump in the car right now with mom and dad and head all the way down to Maracas and be woefully disappointed because it may not be open at this hour, right? But perhaps you'd want to go on the weekend. I do. I love it myself, right? So the scent of fried bake fill the air. How can I use these W's and this H to come up with a more appealing sentence, a more interesting sentence? How did I do it? I described the fried bake as hot and smoking, which was our prompt in this particular exercise. Right? The scent of hot and smoking fried bake filled the air at Maracas Bay, causing all to crave its delicious treats. So in this sentence, we don't really have a who, right? We have more of a what. The scent of fried bake is kind of our who here, but it's an inanimate thing, right? What kind of fried bake? It's hot and smoking, right? The scent of it filled the air at Maracas Bay. So we have a where at Maracas Bay, causing all to crave its delicious taste. All right, so it's causing all to crave its delicious taste. That's a why, and that is how you use the W's and you use the H, my friends, to get your sentences extended, to get them more interesting, to get your reader hooked, to get your reader interested in what you're saying, to get them to feel the emotions that you are trying to put on the paper. And we encourage you to watch and to rewatch these videos and to apply them as you do your practice for SEA. We are going to give you, don't worry, there's going to be practice on this. We had no call-in for this because I'm going to make sure that you'll get courageous and get writing. All right, as we said, we won't put you up, as they say, without your permission, but we will give you feedback if your sentences were lacking, and we'll tell you what was good about it, what could have been better. And now we're going to close off the segment for creative writing today, and we'll come back at 6 p.m. sharp, God willing, with Miss Nyla as we progress to our English language arts lessons for today. I have been teacher Ijaz Ramsahai. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay tuned for our English language arts segment coming up.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and thank you for joining me once more right here live on IBN with C Results, and of course on our Facebook C Results page. So I'm going to be taking you through the next 50 minutes. We're going to be doing ELA. So far in ELA, we have done quite a lot. I hope you didn't miss any of those episodes, and if you did, I urge you, go back to our C Results page, find those live videos, rewatch them, okay? Or if you're watching them for the first time, please watch them, take note of everything that we have done so far. The approach that we are taking, we are looking at sample booklets for the SCA examination coming up in April 2nd of next year, right? So that's right around the corner. So we're trying to get really prepared, as much work as we can do. It's crunch time, so we have a lot of work to do. It's a very little bit of time, limited, so we need to maximize this time we have here. So far what we have been doing, we started off with discussing the format of the booklet. So I'll just reiterate that. The booklet is such that, your ELA paper is such that you have two sections. In section 1, you have task 1, which is spelling. You have task 2, which is punctuation and capitalization. And then you have task 3, grammar. In section 2, you have your poetry, comprehension, and your graphic. We haven't touched on section 2 as yet. We are still on section 1, but we are taking our time with this. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of work. So far, we have learned quite a number of rules for spelling. When we started with task 1, we learned a lot of rules, and we learned how to identify those rules and how to practice our new spelling, okay, in our writing. Also in task 2, which we did some of yesterday, we had actually a lot of fun, a lot of interaction, and a great number of calls yesterday, contributing to punctuation and capitalization. So there we looked at a number of common punctuation marks. Those are not all that we are going to learn, but that's just up until now. We just learned a few, and we learned how to insert them in the pieces given. What we are starting with today is task 3 of our section 1 in the ELA paper. Task 3, is actually quite a lot of work. You know, it has grammar. So we're looking for all the grammatical errors there. In grammar, there are so many rules that you have to learn. You cannot get by in this section in particular, this task in particular, with just, you're going to give it a guess. Don't guess. You have no time for guess. This is so important. I cannot emphasize enough. Those 12 marks in task 3, you want to make sure that you get each and every mark. So you are awarded 1 mark for identifying the error, and then a second mark is given for actually correcting that grammatical error there. So as I was saying with rules, there are so many rules. So this is going to take us a good bit of time. Not just today, but I know we have a lot more work to do when it comes to grammar in reference to punctuation or even spelling. It's so much more. So here I just discussed for you and parents that you can probably take in this information. Grammar is actually 12 marks. So far, we had spelling with 6, we had punctuation with 12, giving us a total of 18 marks there. And if so far on your pencil and paper at home, or even while calling, you gain full 18 marks, congratulations to you. That is 18 out of 18 marks. So today for grammar, we want to earn a maximum of 12 marks. You don't want to miss any of those marks at all. Each mark is very crucial here. In your grammar section or task, there is 1 grammatical error in every line. So similarly with spelling, in every line there was an error. You had to identify the error, and then you had to correct that error. Same goes for grammar. You have to identify that error, and then you have to underline in fact, and then you have to write the correct version in the box provided. So this is what your grammar task looks like, right? You have your piece, you have your 6 lines, and you have your 6 boxes. So this is exactly what it's going to be looking like in your paper. Nothing different except content, right? So we're going to look at this. We're going to read it line by line, and then we're going to start answering or finding the errors and writing the correction at one time. And then we're going to go through each of the correction made and identify the rules associated with them. Now I urge you, this is very important Grammar rules, they're not to play with. You have to learn them. So even if you don't remember from just watching the video, write them down. This is really important, okay? So let's just not waste another minute. Let's jump right into it. So good. Let's read our piece carefully. Now it's important that you read this piece twice. In your first reading, underline what you think can be your errors. In your second reading, look a little more carefully, and then you can get to actually starting to answer. Do not rush, do not jump in, right? We want to make sure that we get all answers correct, right? So let's read. One of the country's national birds are the scarlet. So that's your first line there. I'm just going to read the entire piece and then we'll read it again. Scarlet ibis. An image of them is found on the coat of arms. Since it is an endangered species, actions is needed to protect the scarlet ibis for extinction. Law enforcement, along with educate, is among the steps that could have the greater impact. Now, I know a lot of you, ideas are already flowing in your mind. You are starting to identify your errors. Don't make a move yet. Let's read it again. Take your time when you're reading it this time, and now you can underline what you think is your error. So let's look at line 1. I'm just going to give you a chance to read it carefully. I am actually going to do this piece, and then later on is the interactive part where I know a lot of you actually look forward to, and I do as well. We encourage the participation, so you get to call and you get to answer questions. So today what we are going to do, we're going to analyze each error, find a rule, and what the correction should actually be, and then we're going to do a lesson on each, right? So let's look at line 1 there. One of the country's national birds are the scarlet. Now, at home, what are you thinking? What are you seeing? What do you think is your error? So one of the countries, so notice it's already started there with one. So one of the country's national birds are. If you underlined are, you are quite correct, and give yourself a little clap there. Are is actually our error. So we already identified the error. Now we want to correct that error. What should it actually be? Instead of are, it should be is. And right after we complete all 6 items, we are going to understand a little better why it is and not are. And just additional information here, the scarlet ibis is indeed one of our national birds, and I do hope that you do know the other national bird, okay? So let's look at line number 2. Ibis, an image of them is found on the coat of. What is your answer? I wish I could peep into some of the papers right now, okay? So if you had them, you are correct. But what is your correction? What is actually your correction? Identifying is 1 mark, but remember you want a maximum of 2 marks in each line. So instead of them, it should actually be it. Once again, we're going to explain this a little closer or a little more in depth a little later on, okay? Line 3. Arms. Since it is an endangered species, action is. If you had, or you underlined, endanger, you are correct. Your correction there is now endangered rather than endangered. Endanger, We're moving on to line 4. Needed to protect the scarlet ibis for extinction. Look at that carefully. For extinction, is that correct? Do we want the scarlet ibis to go extinct? We really don't. For is your error there. It should be from. Protect them from extinction. Next line. Law enforcement, along with educate, is among the. Your error in this line, if you have chosen, or if you chose the word educate, you are correct. What is wrong with the word educate? Why is it educate? What should the correction be? It should actually be education. right? We get into that in a minute. So if so far you got 2 out of those 5 wrong, don't worry, don't panic. Just hold on to your seats a little bit, and I'm going to explain it a little better for you shortly. So hopefully when we do the next piece another time, you will get all 6 correct, okay? Right, last line now. Steps that could have, I do apologize. Last one here, steps that could have the greater impact. What is your error? If you have chosen greater, you are correct once more. It should in fact be greatest. And why greatest? We will see that shortly. So now let's read it with the correction, and you will notice the difference and how smoothly this piece will flow once you have now the correction, the grammatical correction there. Correct grammar. One of the country's national birds is the scarlet ibis. An image of them, you can probably just zoom in on this a little bit. An image of them, so it's not them, sorry, an image of it is found on the coat of arms. Since it is an endangered species, action is needed to protect the scarlet ibis from extinction. Law enforcement, along with education, is among the steps that could have the greatest impact. Now, the reason we read that over is because sometimes you think that you did in fact put the correct answer here. But when you read it over, in context with the correction, you see that you have in fact made a mistake once more. So it's important, don't just answer it, read it over with the correction. That will help you to better understand what the passage is saying. And of course to identify errors, right? Good, so let's look at the first line there. One of the country's national birds, and instead of are we have is, the scarlet ibis. This falls under subject and verb agreement. Now, what is subject and verb agreement? We are always hearing in class that a singular subject will take a singular verb and a plural subject will take a plural verb. Well, that is in fact what it is, your subject-verb agreement. Your subject and your verb must agree. So a singular subject will use a singular verb in the present tense. So that's something happening now. And a singular verb, this is important here. A lot of students make this mistake, right? So a singular subject ends with S. See this S here? So important. Let me tell you why. Because a lot of times they confuse nouns and verbs with singular and plural. You just have to remember, you know, a verb is an action word. And once you find that verb in that sentence, and it's a singular subject, you know that your verb is going to end with an S. Now, when we see end with an S, you're thinking plural. But in the case of verbs, this is different, and that is the misconception there with students. Here, in the case of verbs, a singular verb ends with S. So let's look at the sentence. Ariana plays the steel pan at school. So we're going to identify your singular subject here, which is Ariana. One person. Plays, your verb. So we know play is a verb, but why plays instead of play? Because a singular subject, as in the case with Ariana here, your singular subject takes a singular verb. And we know singular verbs end with S. So that is important to remember there. Number 2, the dog chases the cat. How many dogs? Only one. It's a singular subject. Singular means one. So it's singular. The dog chases the cat. Your verb chase, to make it singular, we need to have an S to the end there. It ends with S. So the dog chases the cat. Notice how your subject and your verb agrees. In that your singular subject will take a singular verb. Please do not forget that. We have a little task coming up, and that's where you'll have to call in and answer some questions, right? So be mindful and pay attention. Great. Second one here that you're always hearing in school. A plural subject will use a plural verb in the present tense. So keywords there, plural subject and plural verb. A plural verb does not end with S. So plural nouns may end with an S, but plural verbs do not end with an S. Okay, so we say, if we look at this example, the men drive to work. Let's look at our subject here. The men. Men is actually a plural noun. So you should know that your subject is plural. Please do not get confused. A lot of you, when you see women or men, you are thinking singular. Please know that you have to know your singular and plural of nouns. Here is a plural noun that you should be accustomed to. So we already know the subject is plural, the man. So then your verb has to be plural as well. And you are remembering that a plural verb does not end with S. So if I had drive or drives, you would choose the word drive, because we know that this is a plural verb. It does not end with S. Only singular verbs will end with that S. That's a very common mistake there, okay? So number 2, the children sing lustily. Here we have the children, more than one. Child will be singular there. Children is a plural of the word child or the noun child. So the children sing. We need a plural verb. So we have sing without an S, sing lustily. The children sing lustily. Notice how your plural subject goes with your plural verb. Very important. Looking back at line 1, one of the country's national birds are the scarlet ibis. How do we know to use, or how did we know to use is rather than are? Your key here, one of the country's national birds. That one of there is your indicator. That will help you to identify what your helping verb should actually be, whether is or are. So we're just talking about one here, one of the country's birds. So you should know singular subject, singular verb, or your plural subject, plural verb. And once more, your singular verb ends with an S. Plural verbs do not end with S. Right. In addition to your singular subject and verbs, or your plural subject and verbs, we also have the pronouns I and you. We'll use a plural verb. So before we said a singular subject, we'll use a singular verb. I or you know that's singular. But why are we saying that the pronouns I or you will use a plural verb? This here is an exception to the rule. When we're using the pronoun I or you will use a plural verb. Let's see how we can use that in a sentence. So we have, I drink the milk every day. Your subject here, I, one person, is just me or just you, right? Drink the milk every day. Drink. It is followed by a plural verb. Notice this verb does not end with an S. Okay? So when we're using the pronouns I or you, this is an exception to the rule. We will use a plural verb, as in the case, I drink milk every day. Or he, your subject here is singular. He is a great all-round player. Although your subject is singular, your verb you are using, actually this is supposed to be you. You are a great all-round player. So if I change that to you are a great all-round player, you, and you have a plural verb, are. Okay, so the pronouns I and you followed by a plural verb. Here's just another sentence where you have your singular subject and your singular verb. Great. So now we're going to open up the lines. You know, callers, we want your participation here. This little task is based on what we just learned. So we learned about singular subject and followed by a singular verb, and a plural subject followed by a plural verb. And then you have the exception with the pronouns I and you, where you also have to use a plural verb, although those pronouns are singular. You know, just in grammar, because there are so many rules, there are always exceptions to the rules. So don't be annoyed. You just have to remember to learn them, okay? Great. We already have a call on the line. Good evening, caller. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Hi, caller. Good evening. What's your name?
My name is Adrian.
Hi, Adrian. So we are looking at number 1, where we have Megan put or puts ketchup on her fries. Can you?
The answer is put because it's being a singular subject is a singular noun.
So which one? Puts or puts?
Put.
Spell it for me.
P-U-T-S.
S. Okay. Just making sure, okay? And that is because your subject is singular, so it is followed by a singular verb. And we know that singular verbs end with S. Thank you so much, caller. So great answer there. I just want to remind callers before we move on that when you are calling, please listen to your cell phone rather than the television audio, okay? So you're listening to us on your cell phone. We have another call on line. Good evening, caller. Caller, good evening. Welcome. Good evening, caller.
Hello, I'm Shreya Chitta.
Hi, Shreya. We are looking at number 2. Can you give us the answer for number 2? And just to note, number 2, we're looking for 2 answers, okay? So
Okay.
you're going to give me both answers here.
She
Yes.
likes to sing, but she dislikes dancing.
Okay, so spell like or like. Spell it for me.
Likes,
Yes, just spell it. So I just want to make sure that you have the correct answer. I'm not hearing it too well.
Likes,
Excellent. And
dislikes.
dislikes. You are correct. Why did you choose likes and dislikes?
Because the subject is singular.
And what is your subject there?
She.
She. Excellent job. Good work, okay? Thanks so much for calling, Shreya. Number 3. I walk or walks to school on mornings and drive or drives home on evenings. So this next lucky caller, good evening caller, welcome. Caller, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to answer a question, please.
Sure. Can you just give us your name before we move on?
My name is Nicholas Rampasa, calling from the Vault in St. Joseph.
Okay, very nice to have you with us, Nicholas. We are looking at number 3, and we have 2 answers for number 3. So you're going to give me both answers.
You're talking kind of soft.
Okay. All right. I will just repeat that. We have 2 answers. We are looking for 2 answers for number 3. So I walk or
Two
walks.
answers for number 3.
Right. So can you give me both answers, please?
For number 3?
Yes.
Yes, is walk.
With the S or without the S?
Is for I walk is walk, and for drive is drive.
Okay. Tell me, why did you choose walk and drive?
Because you said before I is always followed by a plural noun.
Not noun, but
Verb.
excellent job. Thank you so much for calling and paying attention there. So we said that the pronouns I and you, although they are singular, they are followed by plural verbs. So thank you so much for that call. Let's go to number 4. We are also looking for 2 answers here. They sit or sits and write or writes their work. So I'm just going to give it a minute. Any lucky callers on the line willing to answer both? Great. We have another call on line. Good evening, caller.
Hi.
Hi, what's your name? Where are you calling us from?
Hi, good day. Who's this?
Hi, good day. Welcome to IBN. You are live with C results.
Yes,
Okay, are you going to answer for us number 4? Caller, are you there? Caller, are you there?
Please.
Okay, so I'm not too sure what went on there, so I'm just going to give someone else a try. Great, you have another call on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Caller, good evening. Welcome. Hi, what's the name where you're calling us from?
Jadon, and I'm calling from Arima.
Okay, so we have Arima here. So we're looking at number 4. Can you give us the answers for number 4? Can you repeat that, please?
They sit and write their work.
Write or writes?
Right.
Why did you choose sit and write?
They is a plural verb.
A plural what?
A plural noun.
Okay, your subject is plural. So it is followed by
a plural verb.
Excellent job. Thank you so much for calling us and giving us those answers. So great so far, exceptional work. Let's move on to number 5 there. And we have another call on the line. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. What's your name?
My name is Sanjeev Mohammed and I'm calling from Marabella.
Hi, Sanjeev. Welcome. So we're looking at number 5. Can you read for me number 5 and give me your answer?
The teachers observes the children while they work. The answer is observe.
Tell me why you chose observe.
Because teachers is plural.
Exceptional job. Job well done. Thank you so much for calling, okay? So the teachers, you have a plural subject there, so it is followed by a plural verb. So the teachers observe the children while they work. Thank you so much for all those calls and correct answers. Right, we're going to have some more activities coming up. Don't be discouraged if you didn't get a chance to call us yet. Don't worry about it. So we're just moving on a little bit, again, deeper into subject and verb agreement. Now, this here is a little different, and you're going to see how it is different. We have a singular collective noun is used with a singular verb, and a plural collective noun is used with a plural verb. First of all, you need to know what is a collective noun. And what is a collective noun? So it's a term we give for a group of something, right? So that's how we can remember it. So like if we have a whole lot of flowers and we want to describe those flowers, we can say a bouquet of flowers, okay? So instead of saying I bought 20 roses or 20 flowers, I can say I bought her a bouquet of flowers. So use a collective noun there. So we just should note that a singular collective noun is used with a singular verb, and a plural collective noun is used with a plural verb. Now let's see, look at our examples and see what I actually mean by singular collective noun and so on. So we have here, a bouquet of flowers is on the table. Notice your verb here and your collective noun. This collective noun is actually, just give me 1 second there. Right, so your collective noun here is actually singular. So we have a bouquet of flowers. How many bouquets? Only one. We have a. So it is followed by a singular collective noun is followed with a singular verb. We have the helping verb is, which is also singular. Let's look at example number 2. Boxes of chocolates were eaten by the children. Here we have were. Boxes of chocolates. Is that singular or is that plural? And if you said plural, you are correct, because we have not a box of chocolates, but boxes of chocolates, which indicates that it's more than one. Your helping verb, were. So plural collective noun is followed by a plural verb. So I hope you remember this. We have another call-in session now. You just need to remember that a singular collective noun is followed by a singular verb, and a plural collective noun is followed by a plural verb. Great, you have a caller on the line already. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. What's your name?
Ariana Chow.
Okay, great. Nice to have you with us, Ariana. So we're looking at number 1. We have a bottle of milk was or were in the refrigerator. So first I want you to tell me what is your collective noun, and then tell me which verb to use.
Huh?
First you're going to tell me what is your collective noun in that sentence. In the first sentence there, what is your collective noun?
Collective noun?
Yes, what is in number 1 here? So we have number 1, a bottle of milk was or were in the refrigerator. So can you tell me what is the collective noun there?
The bottle of milk was in the refrigerator.
Right, and what is your collective noun? A bottle of?
Milk.
Very good. And you said was or were? Was. Thank you so much for calling and giving us that correct answer. So we have our collective noun here, a bottle of milk. It's only one bottle, it's singular, so we should have a singular verb. So a bottle of milk was in the refrigerator. Thank you so much for that call. Now we have another call on the line. Good evening, call and welcome.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. What's your name?
My name is Adrian. I'm calling from Rashida.
Great. Nice to have you with us. We are looking at number 2 now. We are looking at number 2. So we have 3 batches of cakes has or have to be delivered today. Can you tell me what is a collective noun in this sentence?
The collective noun is batches of cake.
Excellent job. And which verb will I use?
Has.
Say that again?
Has.
Has or have?
Has.
Spell it for me. I'm not hearing it too well.
Has.
Has.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so let's look at the subject here. 3 batches of cakes. How many batches? Is it 1? Is it 2? It's actually 3. So is that singular or is that plural?
Yes, that's plural.
So has is it singular or is has plural?
Has. Singular.
Right, so which verb should I actually choose?
Oh, have.
Have. Right, so I just want to make sure you understand that. Why did I choose have? Because
there's more than one batches of cake.
Very good. So your collective noun there is plural, so which means that we need to follow it with a plural verb. Thank you so much for that. Great. Great participation so far. Thank you, callers. We have another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Please just remember to lower your volume on your television set before calling in, okay?
Hello.
And good evening, caller.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Yes.
What's your name?
Aditya Joseph.
Great. And we're looking at number 3 now. So we have a herd of elephants has or have entered the sanctuary. What is your collective noun here?
The answer is has.
Spell it for me.
Has.
Has. Right. But what is your collective noun?
A herd of elephants.
Right. So it is a singular subject or a singular collective noun rather. So it needs to be followed by a singular verb. Thank you so much for that call and your answer. Great. Let's move on to number 4. Another call on the line. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Have the answer for the next question.
Sure. You just want to give me your name before we move on?
Jenna Williams.
Okay. So we're looking at number 4. Read number 4 for me and identify your collective noun there and give me the correct verb.
The fleet of ships is or are engaging in battle.
Okay, so fleets of ships is or are engaged in battles. What is your collective noun there?
The fleets of ships.
Not the. Look at it carefully. If we say the, then we're making it singular. Fleets of ship, right? You need to be mindful. That goes for everyone. You need to be mindful when you are reading, not to make those little mistakes. Because that can lead to is or are. So please read it carefully. So fleets of ships is or are? Are. And that is because we chose are because
it is plural.
Plural. Excellent job. Thank you so much for that. Right, so just a note, be mindful when you are reading. That goes to everyone. Those little errors can make you get this very simple question wrong. Good evening, caller. Welcome to IBN. You are live with us. Caller, good evening and welcome to See Results.
Hello.
Hi, what's your name?
Lisa Stevenson.
Great, nice to have you with us today. Can you give me the answer for number 5?
It's flock of birds and have.
Has or have?
Have.
Have. Excellent job. Why did you choose have? Flocks of birds.
Because it's flocks of birds.
So that makes it a plural. Collective noun. Okay? Thank you so much. You are quite correct. So great. Great answers. So just be mindful of little mistakes you can make in between. Nothing is wrong with that. This is your time for mistakes. But just be mindful. We do not want to repeat those mistakes. Then it becomes a habit. We're going to move on to error number 2. So we're going to read this line. An image of them is found on a coat of. So instead of them, we actually used it. Now, why did we use it rather than them? Now, that's very simple. You have here scarlet ibis. We know we are talking about the scarlet ibis. So that is your noun there. So to replace a noun, we have object pronouns or subject pronouns that we can use to replace nouns in a sentence. You already know this. But what you may have forgotten is actually your list of object pronouns or subject pronouns, or even your possessive adjectives, possessive pronouns, reflexive pronouns. All of these are very important in your day-to-day writing. We use them all the time. The problem is identifying the actual error when in your grammar section. So instead of them, it is actually the object pronoun it. Because scarlet ibis is actually not a person, it's an it. Right? If we're talking about people, we could probably say them, referring to more than one, obviously. But in that case, it's actually one and it's an it, not them. It's not actually a person, right? It's an animal, it's an it. Now, a clue there. They said them. Here was your clue. And let me tell you how that is your clue. So if you were not sure whether to choose a subject pronoun or an object pronoun, and you know your list of subject and object pronouns by heart, you will know that them is only found in your object pronouns, which means they are hinting you that it's the incorrect object pronoun. They are actually looking for another object pronoun. It's not them. We know that's the error. So the other object pronoun that they will be looking for will be it. So that was your hint. They gave you them, but they gave you the incorrect object pronoun. You now had to identify that it was the incorrect object pronoun and actually replace it using it instead of them. If you do not know your subject and object pronouns, I urge you, find a list, use my list, create your own list, and start learning them, okay? It's very important in writing. We always have to replace subject and object pronouns there. Or subject, your actual nouns and pronouns using subject and object pronouns. Number 3 there, or line 3. Since it is an endangered species, our error, endanger, and it was in fact endangered. How did we get endangered rather than endanger? This here is a common case where you have a verb. You have your verb here. And just like with noun formation, instead of noun formation from your verb, we have your adjective formation now. So before we had the word endanger, which is a verb, but now we need to have it in its correct form of the word. So we're going to use endangered rather than endanger. So we're just changing from our verb to our adjective. Notice it's the same word. It even stems from the word danger. So to get endanger, I will add the prefix en there. So it becomes endanger. But then I want to change it to an adjective. How can I do that? I added the suffix ed, and now it becomes endangered. And even if you are reading it, it will make more sense to you. Since it is an endangered species, something is wrong there. It already sounds wrong. So just look into it carefully and identify what is the error and how you can fix that error. Some other cases where we have verbs that can be changed into adjectives is like excite. So excite will be your verb, and then to make it into an adjective, we will have exciting. Or we have decide, and then decisive is your adjective there, right? So if you are not familiar with this, please practice it. Practice changing verbs into adjectives. And you will also note later down, when we come down a little lower, you will see how we can change verbs into nouns as well. So verbs can be changed into nouns and then to adjectives and even adverbs. So that's another table, another set of rules there we will actually have to go through, okay? Like I said, grammar is a lot, but don't worry about it, right? We are here to help you take it step by step. Hopefully not that slowly, because we want to catch up with all our work and try to complete as much of the syllabus as we can to help you get prepared for the upcoming exams. Line 4, needed to protect the scarlet ibis for extinction. That's our error. It should actually be needed to protect the scarlet ibis from extinction. If we say for extinction, then that is saying that we want the scarlet ibis to go extinct. But we do not want that. That is our national bird, or one of our national birds actually. So if we say from extinction, so when we think of extinction, the word itself, that is not something we want happening with animals, right? We don't want our animals to continuously go into extinction. So this is something that we want to prevent. And so we wouldn't say for extinction, but we say from extinction. Stop it from happening. Now let's look here. And here, also what I forgot to mention before we move on, in this case, it's a matter of choosing the correct preposition. So both for and from are prepositions, but you need to know which preposition to use here, because as simple as for and from, it changes the meaning of the sentence. So you have to choose your prepositions wisely. So here, what I have done for you here, I've created a list with from and for, and these are ways you can use the word from to be able to distinguish between from and for, just in case you're a little confused. So from and for. So we wouldn't say, well, we could say borrow for whatever, but here's an example of how you can use from, the preposition from, after a word. So borrow from, or choose from, escape from, expect from. And what about for? How to use the preposition for? Thank or thankful for, call for, I call for, whoever, check for this, fear for your life, ask for a price, arrested for criminal activity, or whatever it is. So if you are lacking a little bit of exercise, practicing with from and for, do a list like this, or even use my list and create some simple sentences as you just learned in creative writing. Simple sentences. The idea is just for you to get the practice to know how to use from and how to use for. Right? You don't want to use that inappropriately. So great. We are now on line 5. Law enforcement along with educate is among the. And we changed the verb educate here. So we know educate is a verb here. And what did we do with the word educate, or the verb educate? We made it into a noun. So previously, we changed endanger, which was a verb, into an adjective. Here now, we're forming new words from the root word. So we're taking educate and we're changing it or making it into a noun to make the sentence more suitable, to make it so that it will make more sense to the reader. So law enforcement along with education is among the. So educate now becomes a noun. So how did we use a verb to create a noun? How did we do that? What did we do? And that is done through using different suffixes. So in this case, we had shun. We had to drop the E before adding T-I-O-N. But to make that into a noun, we just simply, like I said, drop the E, add T-I-O-N, T-I-O-N, and we got the noun, education. Here are some further examples for you how you can form adjectives from nouns. So we're taking the noun and we are making them into adjectives, right? So we have accident. So like before I get to this, it's like I said, we have verbs into adjectives, verbs into nouns, we have nouns into adverbs, right? So that's a long list. Here are just some examples how we can form adjectives from nouns. So if I have the word accident, I can get the word accidental. I added al, the suffix al. Danger, dangerous. Mischief, mischievous. A note to point, spelling. Spelling is very crucial. We covered lots of rules in our spelling task in our first week, which was last week, in our probably first 2 episodes. We did a lot of spelling, we did a lot of rules. So if you missed that, please go back, look at that video, and memorize those rules, start practicing them, right? Mischief and mischievous here, simple spelling change where you had to drop the F change it, or not drop, but rather change the F to a V and add O-U-S. Beauty, beautiful. Note the spelling change. Creator, creative. So you must remember, you are not just going to take the noun and just add a suffix. There are a lot of spelling changes. Be mindful of those, right? When you are creating your adjectives, or even with noun formation, as we just did with educate and education. Right. Great. Last error here. Law enforcement, steps that could have the greater impact. We said greater here was your error. We actually had to use the superlative degree of adjectives to making this word greatest rather than greater. Now, why did we use greatest instead of greater? Right? What is special about greatest and greater? Both of those words you should know and know the difference and how to form them. So this is what we call comparative and superlative adjectives. A comparative adjective is used to compare two nouns. So when we are comparing two nouns, we call them a comparative adjective. And to form the comparative adjective, ER is added to the end of one syllable words to form the comparative adjective, like I mentioned. So it is usually followed by the word than. So let's just go over this quickly. So a comparative adjective is used to compare two nouns. To form the comparative adjective, we add ER to the end of that word. And it's usually a hint. How you would know to identify the comparative adjective is that it's usually followed by the word than. As in the case here, she is much younger than her brother. You have the word young, you have young, and we form the comparative adjective. We are making an actual comparison between this girl and her brother. So we added ER. So notice it's a comparison between two people or two nouns. So to form that, we added ER to the word young. So now we get younger. And if you did not know already, than is your helping word there. So if you had an exercise and you had to circle the comparative adjective, an indicator is that you have to look out for than. So she is much younger than, and you will know it is your comparative adjective. Look at example 2. Today the librarian is busier than she was yesterday. So we had the word busy. Now we have to make it into a comparative adjective. So how do you do that? So this is how you spell busy, right? But notice the spelling change. I'm not seeing that on the screen there, but it's actually B-U-S-Y. That is how we spell busy. So how did we get busier? How did we get this I? There is also spelling changes in all formations of new words. Well, not all, but some, right? And you should note those differences. So to get busier, to form the comparative adjective, of course I'm adding ER. That's one thing I'm doing, but there's also a spelling change. So now I have B-U-S-I-E-R. There are lots of words that you will come across where you have to make spelling changes, even in the comparative state. So just a pointer reminder before we get to the activity, that comparative adjective is formed when you add ER to the end of the word, thus being followed by than. But first, we need to look at superlative adjectives. So a superlative adjective is used to compare 3 or more nouns. Here's the difference. You have 3 or more nouns. With comparative adjectives, we had compared 2 nouns only. Your superlative is used to compare 3 or more nouns. EST is added to the end of a word to make it superlative. So we had ER to make it comparative, and now we have EST to make it superlative. So here's how we can use that in a sentence. Saturday was the hottest day of the year. Now, how do you know to use EST rather than ER? One hint, the word than is not there. That's your first hint. Secondly, look at the sentence. Saturday was the hottest day of the year. day of the year. How many days are there in a year? 365. Is that 1? Is that 2? No, it's not. It's actually 3 or more. So we are comparing the two nouns. We have 1 day compared to all the days in the year. So thus we have to use the superlative adjective rather than your comparative adjective there. And your second example, those are the fluffiest clouds I have ever seen. How many clouds are out there in the sky if you look above now? Right? Not 1, not 2. So there are lots of clouds. So we know that we are not comparing it to 1 or 2 clouds, but to a large number of clouds. So therefore we should use the superlative. It's out of many. So we have to use fluffiest, E-S-T there. And just to note, fluffy, this is how you spell the word fluffy. Notice the spelling change to make it your superlative. Great. I hope you remember those little points there, because now we have this little activity here, activity that you can call, and here's your chance to give us your answer. See what you have learned about superlative, comparative, and superlative adjectives. So let's look at number 1. Mount Everest is so I gave you the word high, right? So you have to give me the superlative or comparative of that word. We have a call on the line. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Good evening. I would like to answer number 1.
Sure. Would you like to give us your name before we move on?
My name is Juliana St. Jules.
Nice. Great to have you with us. So read for me number 1 and give us the correct form of the adjective.
Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world.
Why did you say highest?
Because there are many mountains in the world.
Exactly. Spell highest for me.
Highest.
Excellent job. So we don't have much of a spelling change in this one. We just had to add the superlative ending, which is est. So Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world. So we know there isn't 1, 2, 3 mountains in the world. There are actually many. So you need to know to use the superlative form. Another call on the line. Good evening, caller, and welcome. Hi, caller. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Adriana calling from Australia.
Okay, nice to have you with us today. Number 2, can you read number 2 for us and give us the correct form of the adjective there?
The red car is blank than the blue car. The answer is faster because you're comparing 2 cars.
Very good job. And also, what is your hint in the sentence?
The 2 cars alone and than.
Very good. That's what I want to hear. That word than is an indication that tells us we need to use a comparative form of the adjective. Can you spell faster for me?
Faster.
Very good. Thank you so much for that call and your correct contribution there. So far, so good, right? And look at number 3 now. Jupiter is the something planet in our solar system. Give me the correct form of the word big. Caller, good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name?
My name is Sanjeev Mohammed.
Hi, Sanjeev. Look at number 3 for me. Can you give me the correct form of the adjective there?
Yeah, Jupiter is the blank planet in our solar system. The answer is biggest.
Biggest. Why did you choose biggest?
Because there are many planets in our solar system. There are more than 3.
Right, approximately 8, right? Great. So, can you spell biggest for me?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Biggest.
Excellent job. Note the spelling change with this word, big. When we are making it a superlative or even the comparative, you need to double that consonant letter there, forming the superlative. Great. Number 4. Call on the line. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Hi, good day. I would like to answer a question.
Sure. Would you like to give me your name as well?
Name Nicholas Ramprasad.
Okay, Nicholas. So, number 4. Read it. Give me the correct form of the
Number 4,
adjective.
you are the something person I know. It's supposed to be you are the kindest person I know.
Spell kindness.
Kindest. ST.
Excellent job. Why did you say kindness?
Because the person saying that this person, right, is the kindest person that he or she ever known.
And how many persons do you know? 1 or 2?
No.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much for that call and your participation. So caller is quite correct there for number 4. Great. You have a call on the line again. Let's take this call. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Huh?
Hi, caller. Good evening. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. What's your name?
Ariana.
Ariana, hi. Welcome again. So we have number 5. So read for me number 5 and give me the correct form of the adjective there.
The Pacific Ocean is deeper than the Atlantic Ocean.
Why deeper?
Because they are comparing 2 oceans.
Very good. Comparing 2 nouns there. So I should have deeper. Spell the word deeper for me.
D-E-E-P-E-R.
Excellent job. Thank you so much for that. So Ariana is quite correct there. It's actually deeper and not deepest. Point to note, keyword is than, and also it's a comparison between 2 nouns. Well, we're going to take this last call. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
D-E-E-P-E-R. Excellent job. Thank you so much.
Caller, good evening and welcome.
Good day.
Hi, what's your name?
Michaela Crew.
Hi, Michaela. So we're looking at number 6, our final question of today. I'm not seeing that on the screen there. I'm just going to read it for you. Rabbits are
something
okay, great.
than dogs.
Great.
Rabbits are smaller than dogs.
Right. Spell smaller for me.
S-M-A-L-L-E-R.
Why smaller?
Number 6, our final question of today.
Why smaller?
That's on the screen there.
S-M-A-L-L-E-R.
Yeah. Why did you choose the comparative form and not superlative form?
Because Dan is there.
Dan is there. So that is correct. Also, we are only comparing 2 nouns. Excellent job. Thank you so much for that. Okay, guys. So a job well done today. We covered a lot of work. Next week again. Not next week, but next day. Actually, yes, it is actually next week. Next Monday, Thursday, we have mathematics and creative writing. So that's what I'm saying. Next Monday, we are going to be continuing with grammar exercises, and we're going to do some more of this. A lot of you are going to get another chance to call and give us your answers. We just want to say thank you so much for joining us on live on IBN, or even if you're watching on See Results. And keep it locked with us. Remember, we want to see results. So this is how we can do it, okay? Practice, practice, practice. Thank you so much for joining me. Do have a pleasant night. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening.